Well, it was a Thomas Sajaci day on Thursday because the Cardinals took the series thanks to the brand new call up for St. Louis as they salvage the season series just a little bit for the Cardinals, even though the Reds, they took the season series long ago. Hey, what's up? My name is Jeff Carr. I am the host of the Locked On Reds podcast. I'm alongside JD Haffern. He is the host of the Locked On Cardinals podcast, and we're going to do a bit of a post-mortem for this one series, for the season series. The Reds and the Cardinals, they're done in 2024. Quite frankly, I think they're both done. Like, I think when the regular season ends, both these teams will be heading off to the golf course and the beach and all that other stuff, looking ahead to 2025. We'll look ahead to 2025 coming up here in a few minutes. Later on in the show, I also want to do a little bit of a game because I feel like John Mozeliak, Nick Kroll, David Bell, and Oliver Marmol kind of have the same energy whenever they're talking to people. And we're going to see just how true that is coming up in a little bit. But we'll start first, of course, with this series that the Cardinals ended up taking 2 out of 3. That's coming up on today's Locked On Reds, Locked On Cardinals crossover that is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. And JD, I guess the Cardinals won 2 out of 3. How you feeling there, pal?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm re-energized about my franchise to take down the evil Reds. Finally. Honestly, really what it is it's not so much that we needed to just beat the Reds, but I need to be okay at my own household, Jeff, because my wife is a monster Reds fan, being from Cincinnati. And for years and years, the Cardinals have, let's be honest, they've kind of kicked around the Reds a little bit. Last 2 years, the Reds have won both season series 7-6, I believe. And I got to hear it up here. All right. And constantly, and even though the Reds take the season series this time around, to have the Cardinals go out winning the final 2, I think it's going to bring a little peace, a little balance to my household. And that's really what my world is all about these days, because as you mentioned, these teams aren't going anywhere this year. I mean, yeah, the Cardinals haven't been eliminated mathematically yet, but we've already turned the page. You can see how the lineups were in this series and how things are moving forward, where it's more about 2025 than it is the rest of this season, which I think the fan base, myself, we're all on board for it. There's no real need to keep hanging on to hope that some miracle is going to happen anymore. You just go out and do what you can with the guys you have, and you're getting a glimpse of some of the future, as you mentioned, with Thomas Sajaci getting the call up and having the big day here on Thursday. So, that was fun to see. Anytime you get to see somebody get their first hit and their first RBI, and he played outstanding with the glove in the series well. It was a breath of fresh air for the Cardinals.
Robbed a sure hit of Rhys Hines there in the top of the 8th inning that was right up the middle. Sajaci ranging over to his right, makes a great play to even stab the thing, turns around, makes the throw. And Rhys Hines is not a slow guy. I mean, that was a great play, even with the glove. But to see him get his RBI there in the 9th inning, that was something interesting to see as well. So nice on Sajaci for, bringing balance to the force of the half and pass. But he also really threw a wrench in the ultimate plan that management had set up for the Cincinnati Reds, because you see, JD, the ultimate plan for the 2024 Cincinnati Reds is that they would be the most interesting 500 ball club in all of Major League Baseball. And now they have to win 10 out of their last 14 to accomplish that goal and at least be a 500 ball club at the end of the season. And you're talking about a series in Minnesota coming up this weekend. You're talking about seeing the Cubs for 3, going to Pittsburgh for 3, which has been a problem for the Reds. Not a problem for many other teams, but it's been a problem for the Reds. So the fact that they ended up losing this rubber match was tough. And it all, for me, changed in the 6th inning, because the Reds were sitting there with bases loaded, 1 out. I'm like, here we go. They just tied the ball game up, and you got Tyler Stevenson at the plate. Good vibes all around. Then he strikes out. Then TJ Friedl hits a lazy ground ball to third base. Ending over. That was the theme for the Reds in the whole series, but that's really what killed them in this rubber match, was the fact that they could not hit with runners in scoring position. Quite frankly, they didn't hit a whole lot at all. I mean, I'm glad that they were able to get a shutout in game one, because that feels like the only way they were going to win any of these ball games, considering they only scored one run in the second and third games. The Reds were just completely stymied by everybody on the mound, not named Andre Palante.
Yeah. Sonny Gray coming in on Thursday had not gotten a win against the Reds, which was kind of hard to believe in his career, like out of any team that he played for. And we know that he has this tendency to pitch pretty well at the beginning, and then somewhere around the fifth inning, sixth inning, usually the third time through the order, something happens and it gets triggered. And it felt like we were going down that path again, where the bases were loaded. He gave up the single. He had a perfect game up until that Fraley single. And then there was the walk. And then that you were like, oh no, this is where it's going to spin out of control. And Sonny's a much better pitcher at Busch Stadium than he has been on the road this year, and he was able to wiggle out of it and give his team a chance to stay in the ball game. But normally we've seen that happen before, where now 3 runs get across, he gives up a 2-run shot. Something just dreadful happens in one inning and kind of torpedoes what is usually a pretty good Sonny Gray start until that point.
Yeah, I was hoping that would continue, but he was able. Everybody was able to recover well on that one, because these Reds bats, man, they were just shut down. I mean, anytime Kittredge came in, it felt like everybody went to sleep. Jojo Romero shut them all down. Ryan Fernandez, trying to think of other bullpen guys. They all did it. Ryan Helsley, yeah, in game 2. So all of that to being said, like, the Reds still had some good pitching performances, and as weird as their situation has been for the last month with everybody on the injured list, Jacob Junis comes in and he does allow the solo shot, but at the same time, that is the first run that he is allowed as a starter. This is his 3rd start for the Reds, and he's now pitched 14 total innings and he has 1 run allowed. It's phenomenal to watch him pitch as a starting pitcher, and that's not something I thought I was going to say whenever the Reds acquired him in the trade that sent Frankie Montas to the Brewers, which, I mean, quite frankly, look, I don't pretend to understand the mind of a Cardinals fan, but if I were a Cardinals fan watching that deal, I'd be like, what the heck are you doing to us here, Reds? Why are you sending help to the team that's needed starting pitching help all year long? Anyway, I digress.
I understood it, though. Trying to get out from under what you had to pay the rest of the year to Frankie made a lot of sense. And unfortunately, you did send it to the team in the division, which is a big no-no, Nick Krall. But I understood it. If you were going to, you got to take the best package you can get in return for what was left of Montas this year and get rid of that contract. So I understood it. But I was impressed by all of the Red starters in this series. Obviously the game on Wednesday night, Williamson, looking at from the left-hand side. I mentioned that in yesterday's episode. I was like, don't look now, but the Reds, if they can keep some of these guys healthy, that's a nice little young 5-man rotation you got built there. And 3 of those guys are lefties, where you got Hunter Green and Andrew Abbott and Nick Lodolo. And then you've got Williamson and then Rhett Lauder, who looked fantastic in his start. So I was like, look out. Like, if those guys stay healthy, that could be some trouble.
That's going to be the thing that they can really hang their head on this offseason. I would like to see them go out and get another starter, but it seems like they've got depth. And even guys like, Carson Spires came into the game, the rubber match on Thursday, and got his brains beat in a little bit. He's been getting his brains beat in his last couple of appearances, but he really had a nice run there whenever he was first called up. And they were looking at him to maybe replace Graham Ashcraft, and he said, ain't no maybe about it. I got this, man. Just hang on. But now it seems like fatigue has really caught up with him. But he's going to be part of that depth for the Reds next year. But yeah, ultimately the Reds fall 2 out of 3 to this one. The future, and we kind of mentioned it there, is interesting for both of these teams, because it feels like the Cardinals and the Reds need to make some moves this offseason, but none of them are really intuitive. There's going to have to be some creativity in the front offices of both of our teams. Talk about what we mean coming up next. First, I want to tell you about TonaI, because look, we all got busy schedules. We all got lives that sometimes we just can't fit a work into. TonaI is going to help you out with that. And quite frankly, JD, I understand you have a little bit of experience with TonaI. I know that you kind of know the system a little bit well. Is it as easy as they say, that it's very adaptive to each individual's style.
Yeah, that's the whole point of Tonal, really, is it's meant to, go to what you want done. It's not you trying to figure out something else, like figuring out a machine at the gym that you've never used before, and you're looking around like, can anybody help me? No, Tonal is right there for you. It's like having your own personal trainer, to be honest with you, Jeff. And it's there, available whenever you need it or whenever you want it. So I think it's a fantastic device. I love the fact that you don't have to, because all of the pains that go on with another gym, you don't have to worry about that with Tonal, as far as like waiting to get on whatever machines, you're just sitting there like, dude, I'm wasting so much time. What about traffic? How long does it take you to get back and forth to the gym? Like all of that wiped away with Tonal. It's a fantastic product, and it's something that if you're somebody trying to keep yourself in shape, definitely look into this.
And you've got to check out this offer that they have for you today over at tonal.com. That's TONAL.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get $200 off your purchase. Again, that's tonal.com and the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off. Tonal. We're talking Reds and Cardinals, this series that the Reds dropped 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals in St. Louis to end the season series between these two division rivals. And kind of like you mentioned, the Reds did win 7 of the 13 again for the second.
I don't know why you
got
to keep bringing that
Absolute
up.
Absolute dominate.
The Cardinals just took 2 of 3. Let's focus on the now and not the past.
Yes, not definitely not the past, but we will also kind of look ahead a little bit because these two teams figured to be in the race. They figured to be part of the playoff picture this season. And more so from the Cardinals because they're just always in the playoff picture. Even though they had such a tough year in 2023, they really bounced back well for most teams. But for a team like the Cardinals with the kind of history that they have, this sort of season is just kind of one of those, I would almost look at it as kind of like a tease, because it's definitely teasing me as a Reds fan who I'm tired of losing, and I thought we were done doing it here this season.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would say tease for the Cardinals side of it. I feel like they're disappointed again. I think the front office at least believed that this team that they had put together was a playoff contender. The fan base, myself included, never thought that what they had assembled to start this year was enough.
You did the Tim Robinson where you're like, are you sure about that?
Yeah, I mean, and it all started in the offseason when you saw the signings of Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn. That's not enough. That it was never going to be enough. The Sonny Gray signing was wonderful, okay? But you needed somebody kind of like a Sonny Gray level-wise to bring the team up to the level where it would be an actual contender. You did not see the offense was going to be as bad as it was this year. You didn't foresee Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman and Nato and Goldschmidt, all these guys having these horrible seasons. That wasn't expected, and I can't really put that on the front office. But when it came to trying to put other pieces together for this team to take them to the next level, I think that's where the letdown began before even a first pitch was thrown. And you saw it in this series, and there was comments made by your TV commentators about how empty the ballpark was. And I remember Jeff Brantley, former Cardinal legend Jeff Brantley, made the comment where he's like, I've been coming to St. Louis to play ball and watch ball for 35 years. I've never seen it like this, where the fan base is just like, we're tired of average being what they're striving for. They're tired of hearing, well, if we get in, no, we don't want that anymore, And
right.
And as spoiled as the Cardinals have been over the years, because that's the thing, is like other franchises would kill for what they're doing, to be 2 games over 500 at this point. Many teams would be happy with that, but the Cardinals consider, at least the fan base considers themselves a step above that, and they're going to look at this season as a disappointment, as a waste, and there's a lot of things that contributed to it. They don't like the way that they have handled some of the younger players, the up and downs of Jordan Walker coming up, coming down, bring him up as a platoon player, don't play him, send him back. They're like, what are you doing with this guy? Like, like would the Reds have ever done that with Elly De La Cruz when they brought him up? Because that's what Jordan Walker is supposed to be like, not the same player, but like their top prospect. and that's just not how you treat these guys. And it's baffling to Cardinals fans how the front office continuously gets this stuff wrong, and they keep screwing young hitters up who end up either getting shipped off to other teams or just not having a great career altogether. And then they go on to other places and succeed, and it just drives everybody nuts. So I don't see this season as a tease. I think it's considered a disappointment from our side.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because they did that with Mason Wynn, but they don't do it with Jordan Walker. I wonder if they're seeing something behind the scenes that they're not wanting to talk about, but it's always tough when it comes to that because there's certain players like that. Like Rhys Hines is not on the same level. He is not a can't miss prospect. In fact, quite frankly, I didn't expect him to make the major leagues this year, but he came up, he was on fire, and then he kind of hit a cold spell. I think at one point he was like 1 for 20 something like that. He was going through a slump, and you're like, okay, well, he's working through something. The Reds are kind of sliding out of the playoff race here. Let's see if he can work on it. Send down in AAA, start seeing a bunch of other guys. Like I believe the move to open up a roster spot for Dom Smith was to send Rhys Hines down. He's like, Dom Smith. That's what we're going with. All right. I don't know about that, but sure. But that's kind of been the thing I think that is very similar about the Reds and the Cardinals is that both of the lineups have disappointed, and for different reasons. Obviously, Goldschmidt and Arenado kind of anchoring the lineup. You've got that veteran anchor. We knew that the Reds didn't have a veteran anchor. The Reds didn't go out and get that guy. Quite frankly, that was a need that I thought they should have addressed this last offseason, and they didn't. And then that was a need at this trade deadline that the Reds had the weirdest trade deadline ever, where they're like, we're not going to sell and we're not going to buy, but we're going to make moves. And I don't know. But they didn't go get them at the deadline. And so now we're going into the offseason. Guess what I think they need? A veteran guy to anchor their lineup because they didn't develop anybody. Nobody really jumped up and said, I'm your dude. I'm your RBI machine. I'm the guy in the middle of the order that you really have to worry about. They've had some guys that have had some nice stretches, but for the most part, there is no big bopper. And this team does not have the team power that I thought they did. I think a lot of that has to do with guys like Will Benson really declining. Noelvi Marte it felt like his career got reset by the PED suspension, and then he had a hard time getting going. We're seeing a little bit of better contact, a little bit better play in the field here recently, but is it to the point that I'm like, pencil him in, opening day third baseman next year? No, I think that he's got a lot of work to do to earn his way back to where we thought he was and where we maybe got a little bit overexcited about this spring training. And then guys like CES, what are they going to be? What is Matt McClain going to be to this team after? And quite frankly, they still haven't announced that they're going to shut him down. I think they should. There's no time left in the season. And they should really just focus on getting him healthy for next year. But that then carries a question with it of, he's going to be almost 600 days between games. Like, that's going to be really tough for me to just be like, yep, we can pencil him into the middle of the order and feel good about it. So there's definitely a lot of questions that the Reds have to answer this offseason. But the thing is, nobody's going anywhere. Unless they get creative, unless the Reds make a move where they trade a guy that you're not expecting, that's only the only way I can see it happening. Maybe they go out and they make a big free agent move in the outfield, but if they're going to be loyal to their guys, and the Reds have been pretty loyal to their players over the last couple of years under Nick Krall, then I'm a little bit worried about running it back again next year and expecting different results.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with the Cardinals too. Is like, all right, so this offseason you're looking at Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn. They both have team options. All right. And you made the trade for Eric Fetty. So you've got Fetty, Sonny Gray, Steven Matz is, he's still there when he's healthy. Doesn't happen very often.
For 30 years, hasn't he?
Miles Michaelis is still under contract for 1 more year. There's a decision to be made there. Some people believe that he's a guy that you just need to cut bait on because he's just not been very good for quite a while now. But the Cardinals aren't one of those teams that is like willing to eat $17.6 million or even 11, 12 million just to get him out of the way so that somebody else can come through and take a spot. Andre Palante, as you mentioned, is a guy that's given the Reds fits these days, and he definitely made some strides this year when he finally became a member of the starting rotation full time, where they were like, no, this is your spot, man. You're cool. Got a whole lot better. And so there's not really a lot of room for a guy like a Gibson or a Lynn, and you've got some young guys that you want to bring up, but you still got 4 dudes that, you just had this year coming back as of right now, so there's not a lot of turnover there. On the offensive side of things, where are you bringing anybody in? Paul Goldschmidt, he's a free agent, but you know how the Cardinals are. They're probably going to try to extend him for a year or two, see if he'll take a little less money and bring him back. Second base, you've got, somebody, Sajaci, Gorman, Donovan. Wynn's not going anywhere. Nato's not going anywhere. Newt, Siani, Victor Scott, they're all coming back. And this is the same team that you've kind of had for 2 years that hasn't won very much. And here we go. What are they going to do? How do you move on from some of these guys and inject a little more life into this lineup and become a better team when you got all these dudes coming back? I mean, like you said, they're going to have to get creative somehow if they're going to do any sort of turnover, because even bringing in, letting some of these young guys play, they're unproven. And you learn the hard way with, guys like Gorman, who just ended up failing later on. Jordan Walker, even though he was very successful in the second half last year, has been, outside of the one game in New York against the Yankees, hasn't really done anything at the major league level. And he wasn't doing a ton at the AAA level. So, that's got to make people nervous, considering he was supposed to be your next guy. And now this is an entire year of kind of well, we don't know if he's any good now all of a sudden. We're not quite sure, which is that's a scary proposition when he's supposed to be your guy. And it was supposed to be him and Mason Wynn, and they were going to be the 1-2 guys coming into this lineup. And now one of them's Jordan Walker's missing. Gorman's in AAA now, trying to learn how to hit the ball again. It's a mess. And it's you expect them to take a step next year and become better, but you thought they were going to do it this year too, and it didn't happen. And you saw the results where the offense as a whole suffered big time with them not doing what they were supposed to do and the regression of Arenado and Goldschmidt.
And that's kind of been the big thing for the Reds this year too, is that, progression is not a straight line. It's not cut and dry. Everybody's going to get better as much as we might have wanted it to. Because if that was the case, the Reds would be where we wanted them to be. But there was a lot of guys, man. They took a step back this year. So can we bet on them to take a step back forward, maybe even 2 steps forward and cover some of the ground we thought they would do this year? That's going to be the hard question, and something that Nick Krall needs to answer. Hopefully we'll see him do that this offseason. But you know what, JD, when it comes to Nick Krall answering questions, when it comes to John Mozeliak answering questions, David Bell, Oliver Marmol, could we tell the difference if we just look at what they said? Because I'm not so sure we can. We're going to try, or at least I'm going to have you try because I have it written. Coming up next. There is still a little bit of time left here in the Major League Baseball season for you to take advantage of PrizePicks. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, and it's so easy. You can go into PrizePicks. You can find your favorite players like Mason Wynn, like Ellie De La Cruz, like Tyler Stevenson, like Paul Goldschmidt, all those different guys. Find your favorite stats and just click more or less. You put together at least 2 picks, and you're going to start rolling in some dough. And in some cases, depending on the boost, depending on the stat lines and all that other stuff, you could win up to 100 times your money. Take $10, turn it into $1,000 one day of baseball, baby. Plus, with football starting up too, they've got this great promo. If you take Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, one of JD's favorite players, to throw 1 or more yards, all he has to do is throw more than 1 passing yard, and you'll win that pick. So make sure you add him to your PrizePicks entry this weekend.
He barely did that in week 1, by the way.
He barely did that.
And they still won. Silly Bears.
A lot of people were throwing a lot of passing yards in week 1. That was a weird. I think we're going to see it bounce back. But anyway, check that all out over at PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and play a $5 play, and you'll get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly when you play $5 over at PrizePicks. Run your game. And also FanDuel has all the promos for you right now. I mean, you go over to FanDuel.com/lockdown. You're going to be able to play $5, JD, and you'll get 3 free weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket with YouTube and YouTube TV. Because all you then need, you just need YouTube TV, have an account there, and you can watch every live, out-of-market Sunday afternoon football game on YouTube TV, an NFL Sunday Ticket for free, and you got free cancellation as well anytime you want. But they've also got another boost for you, too. They're going to double your winnings on pregame money lines for this Sunday's games in the National Football League. I actually won. That was like the only bet that I placed last Sunday that I won, is that I bet on a money line that I doubled, and I was happy about it. So make sure you go check that out. Winning is good. I lost everything else, though. Don't worry about that. Go over to FanDuel.com/lockdown to take advantage of all the great offers that they've got today, because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. You can catch every pitch of the Reds and Cardinals hometown broadcasts with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds or Cardinals. All right, finishing up talking about, so we really touched a lot on the season series, the 2 out of 3 series that the Cardinals just won. We kind of looked ahead a little bit. Let's have some fun, because I feel like in maybe this offseason we do a bigger version of this with our friend Ethan Smith, because I really feel like Derek Shelton, David Bell, and Oliver Marmol could all talk. Like, don't let me see their face, but they could all talk, and I'd be like, that's the same person. They're all the same person. But I want to do 4 different. I have 4 different quotes, and I'm going to have you guess who they are. And the 4 people, we'll narrow it down because there's a lot of people in the world. But the 4 people that we're looking at is John Mozeliak, Rick Kroll, David Bell, Oliver Marmol. We're going to see if you can guess who said.
And I do want to ask this real quick. Has anybody seen Kroll and Mozeliak in the same room at the same time? Because they're quite similar builds and looks, and I'm just curious.
Is it AI generated? Is every team got the same guy, but it's just AI generated the image? I don't. Yeah,
feels like at least here in the Central, our guys at least, yeah.
Man, they all say that, well, because they all have got the same type of owners that they're dealing with too, so that helps. But yeah, let's try this. Here's the first quote that I'm going to give you, and
I got to guess which of the 4 said
which of the 4 guys. Yes, okay. And I'll give you a hint as far as when we're talking about the manager's quotes, they're after losses, and the general manager's quotes are talking about moves.
Okay.
Some of them, though, will be hard to talk about. So this is the first one. This one, I think this one's kind of easy, but I didn't find a whole lot on him, so let's see. Quote, I feel like all these guys are uber talented. I think when it comes to last year, we didn't go like we wanted to go, and a lot of pressure was put on individuals to do more than they could or should. The belief we have with these players, where they are in their careers, they are all-star caliber players.
I'm going to go with John Mozeliak on that one.
John Mozeliak. It was leading into spring training.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah. I almost put too much of a hint in there, and actually would have made the quote too long anyway. But he mentioned, he's just like, we added 15 new guys to the 40-man roster, had a 38% turnover. And it's so funny. Like, I don't like it when general managers do that, man. Like, don't tell me about the quantity. Tell me about what you fixed. Tell me about the holes that you addressed and things like that. Don't tell me about, we brought in all these guys. It's like, I went to Taco Bell and got a lot of tacos too, but that.
Don't tell me about your 4th catcher that you added to the 40-man roster. Like, no, really? Man, I need to give me your top 15 guys and tell me they're better than the last 15 that you had on this team last year. That's where I need to see the improvement. The depth stuff, if you get there, so be it. But like, that's not what I'm worried about when we're starting. And I don't know. I just didn't feel that Nick Kroll would say something like, first, I don't think he would say the word Uber, or would he call anybody, would he say all-stars for what the Reds are doing because of the youth of the team. I don't think he's ready to call them all all-stars. Yeah, that's how I separated them and went with Big Mo.
That's fair because he is. I mean, Nick Kroll is very general. Like he got in trouble early on in his career as a general manager for being too direct with his quotes and trying to be a little bit creative with what he was saying.
Be more boring is what they want you to be.
He became
Take notes. John Mozeliak is the most boring dude alive. Like even when he's excited, he's like the guy from Ferris Bueller. Bueller. He's that guy. Right. Ben Stein. Remember that dude? That's who he is. He's very much like him.
Got that Ben Stein energy to him. Let's do another one here. Here's another quote. We've done it quite a bit this year. Opponents have done it against us this year. It's part of the game. When you're on the wrong side of it, it hurts. When you're on the right side of it, you know how important it is.
I'm going to go David Bell.
2 for 2. Look at that. This was after the Red Sox when the Reds lost to the Red Sox 4-3 and Stuart Fairchild hit a game-tying home run that was robbed by Jarren Duran there in center field.
Yeah, and it does hurt when it happens against you, and when it goes your way, it feels good. Yeah, that's very David Belly. Yes.
Yeah, I picked that because I'm like, you could literally be talking about anything, and quite frankly, I don't even know that it needs to be baseball. Like it could be anything. It's
it reminds me of Bull Durham. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains. And okay, cool.
Make sure I write that down. Give it a direct quote. All right, let's do another one here. Here's another quote. Quote, they're going to take their best shot. There are times they're going to come through. There are times.
That's Ollie Marmol. You don't even have to continue anymore. That is Ollie Marmol to a T. I've heard that phrase over and over. You just stop you right there, Jeff. That is Ollie.
He was close. I feel like reading this quote and then you saying that he says it a lot, I feel like what he did was he took the quote that Michael Scott wrote up on the marker board when he's just like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky said it. Michael Scott said that Wayne Gretzky said it. It's like maybe Oliver Marmol's like, oh, okay, I can't say that. So how do I, what's like the synonym, where's the thesaurus for this thing? And that's what he came up with was this.
And I feel bad for these guys because they never want to, I don't want to say criticize, because he learned the hard way last year with Tyler O'Neill. When you say something about a player out in the media, it doesn't go well in the clubhouse. They can't tear their own dudes apart, and they got to sound positive as best they can. But you can just tell when you've seen enough interviews when they're just like, dude, I get it. We aren't good. We understand that. We're hitting 158 with bases loaded. You guys going to have to keep telling me that. I know we stink. What do you want me to do about it? That's what he wants to say. But he can't do that. So he's got to be like, we're going to keep trying. We're going to compete. We're going to keep taking this. We're going to try to take good at bats and see what happens. I trust these guys. That's all he can say.
Yeah. It's that David Bell's the same way. And because I kind of gave it away, the 4 different quotes. The last one was Nick Kroll, and this was Nick Kroll's quote. He said, "Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the market, but at the same time, he has been an impactful player for this team, and he brings a lot of qualities to this team right now, and hopefully gives us a chance to win this year."
Yeah, that's a very Mo way to say it too, where I'm not gonna comment on the market, like, because he tends to stay away from it, which always makes me wonder how things get leaked, because he never says anything. Like, he never shows his hand. Probably a pretty good poker player behind the scenes is John Mozeliak, but it's strange, man, how where both of these teams are very similar in records, not so similar in age groups of what our teams are, but still similar with how our front office is reacting to things and trying to build things. And they're both kind of in a tough spot where they all have a core that they've put their faith in, and it's kind of ride or die with them right now, because that's what you've got. You've got so many guys that you believe in and you think are going to be good, and you're ready to move forward with that. I mean, this offseason, when talking about making any sort of moves, I don't know if either one of our franchises makes any sort of splash whatsoever, to be honest. I think it's kind of, these are the guys, and you might tinker with a couple of pieces, but this is who they're hoping takes that next step.
Yeah, marginal moves here and there, but I think you're right. As much as I hope that the Reds go get Juan Soto, probably not going to happen.
Not if we get him first, Jeff. Not if we get him first.
Too many similar needs. But hey, that is a great spot to end today's crossover. We'll be talking more throughout the offseason, kind of doing some divisional crossovers and things like that as we look at where the NL Central is going. And good Lord, can somebody... The Brewers are not a good team. How are they a good team? They're not a good team on paper, but they're a good team on the field. And it's just, whatever, it's annoying. We'll talk more about that this offseason, how our two teams can overcome the Brewers. But for now, that's it for the Reds and Cardinals in 2024. We'll reconvene in 2025. But thanks so much for checking out this Locked On Reds, Locked On Cardinals crossover. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day.